Hello all, welcome to Up The Poshcast, the Poshcast made by the fans for the fans. Grab yourself a drink, put your feet up and listen in. And by the way, there could be some strong language.
Welcome back, Posh fans. Peterborough United lost 1-0 in the dying embers of the game against Bolton Wanderers on Saturday. I thought it was a pretty solid performance against a team that's clearly still pretty good, even if they haven't shown it in the league table yet this season, having lost the playoff final last year. But let's break it down, discuss what we think worked and what didn't. Today, I'm joined by Ash, John, Del, Lodz, and Charlie, and me, Harry. Del, I'll come to you for your views on the game.
My views on the game. I actually overall quite enjoyed the game. Potentially, I thought it was going to be one of the best 0-0 that I've seen for a long time. Both teams actually looked like they was going for it. We had some outstanding performances, and then some not so outstanding performances by a couple of players that we'll probably come on to shortly. I don't think Bolton was as bad as what everyone was saying. I was speaking to a friend prior to the game who's a Bolton fan, and they were saying just put as much money as you can on Peterborough to win because we're shit, as in Bolton are shit. But I actually thought they played quite well. Looking at some of the players they've got, they quite clearly, are a strong team. But we done okay. We done all right. And I think the result overall, we didn't deserve to win the game, but I don't think we deserve to lose the game, even though there's a lot of pressure from them. What did I say? Bilo, is it 10 saves he made or something, which is some sort of quite incredible stat, to be fair. But we had our chances as well, and on another day we could have scored 2 or 3, and another day Bolton could have scored 2 or 3. But overall, disappointing to the way it ended. You can't not be disappointed. I think we'd all have been happy with a 0-0 enjoyable game, getting a car for the long drive home. So I'm not disappointed with the performance. A little bit disappointed with the result and the way it happened at the end, especially after that saving a penalty and the 2 rebounds. What I was really disappointed with is, just before I move on, is the fact that he saved the penalty, but if you look at the stills and the pictures, there's 4 Bolton players around him. Where's the rest of the Peterborough players chasing him? It was as if to say, "Oh, they've scored a penalty, we'll just stand back and wait for the final whistle." Whereas Bolton clearly wanted it more than us. He saved the penalty. That was it. There's 3 or 4 of them, and it's just like, fucking where? Why? You can see. Is it Curtis have stood still, and you even see Pugu just sort of stood there looking. Come on, you get stuck in. There's no way, right? You get stuck in, even if it's just why are you laughing? I might have said his name wrong, but you know me by now. But when it's a penalty, you rush in. You don't just stand there with your hands on your hips. And I think that was probably the most disappointing from a player's perspective for me. But just to recap again, impressed with the performance, enjoyed the game, just disappointed with the end.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Del, with what you said about Bolton wanting it more. I definitely felt towards the end of the second half that they were all over us. I just felt like the goal was going to come at some point. It was a bit of a backs to the wall performance from us from the first minute. We were making plenty of blocks and clearances. And I know you said about Bilo making 10 saves. Obviously, it was a great performance from him. I think we only had 2 shots on target ourselves, so we could have scored definitely. But I don't. It was a weird one. You said that we didn't deserve to lose, but I don't think they deserve to not win either. If that works, if that's possible. But yeah, the final couple of minutes of the game, I don't think it was just a penalty either. It was Danae O'Brien Brady's clearance. I think it come off his knee and went 20 yards out. I saw a lot of people moaning about the referee, including Darren Ferguson. The referee can't blow there. The ball hasn't gone far enough out of the box for him to blow full time there. Obviously, they get the corner. De Havilland's fouled his man, and on the replay, it just looks like an absolute stupid challenge. I don't know why he's done it. And then, yeah, like you said, the penalty. Sam Curtis is the unlucky one that's in that angle, that camera shot. But there is 10 other outfield players, and none of them went anywhere near it. And Bilo, in his post-match interview, said he looked up and there was 4 white shirts coming towards him. So I think it was all about desire. We did well to defend for as long as we did, but it was that last couple of minutes. I think we just didn't want it as much as what Bolton did.
I mean, I really just see it as being that a point was lost because of specific actions of the players on the edge of the box there. It may be that some of them were told, be available to counter. And actually, if you look at Poku's body language, he looks as though he's got two players in front of him in Curtis and Donne. And the way he's tilting his body is as though he knows that if it gets stopped, he's meant to run. And they will know internally if that was, or who was in charge of running in and being the person to go in second on the penalty. For those that were meant to run in, I would personally be fining all of them. I think Curtis needs to lose his week's wages over it. It's a point gone. We paid a lot of money to go up to that ground and pay 28 quid for a ticket to watch that game. And you've let all your teammates down by purely a lack of desire and commitment. In fact, Fergie used those two words. I think he said something like, players always have a commitment, but sometimes don't have the desire, or if it was the other way around. Curtis had neither in trying to stop that penalty on the rebound. So disappointing. He's not the only one. He's the one that's in view of the camera. And there are others that will be just as at fault, who will need the same treatment. That's what I've got to say on the penalty.
Harry. Right, so I get where you're coming from potentially about Poku being ready to break. But if he was ready to break, he wouldn't be on the fucking edge of the area. He'd be like further up the pitch ready to break and let the defenders or whatever get the ball to pass out to him. I just think it was, I don't know, what's the word? Inexperience from the team to chase in and clear the ball. From the break point of view, we wouldn't have been on our own box ready for that catch the ball, throw out. All throughout the game, I thought Bilo was actually doing some good distribution. So there's no need for Poku to be that close to the 6 yard, so the penalty spot by the time it sort of happened. So just that the argument point there. Sorry, mate.
I just want to jump in and say, basically, I'm really frustrated at the fact that we're even talking about the penalty, because I'm just fucking sick of refereeing standards across the Football League. I think they're an absolute disgrace, and I think the EFL need to look at it. And frankly, you can look back at our game against these last year as the prime example. And I know Lodz said, well, we didn't clear the ball far enough up the pitch, but we did have it near their halfway line at 96:40 when you've added on 96 minutes. And you go back to last season, and this is the prime example. There was a pitch invader in added time when they had 10 men, and they wasted a minute and a half of this pitch invader running on the pitch in added time, and he stopped it at 94 minutes. Now, as a referee, you've just got to control your watch. There's no subjectivity in added time. And I know people will say a minimum of, fine. But either you all add it on, as in all the stoppages, because so many refs will get to that, the number that is hold up, and they will blow the whistle, regardless of the time wasting, regardless of the balls that are out of play, regardless of how many people go down injured. We've all seen it from every level of football. Some just add it on and add it on and add it on. And ultimately, they scored in the 99th minute yesterday. And I know there was a bit of time for the penalty, but basically, it just shows the inconsistency of referees across. I thought it was a great example of how the inconsistency of officiating across the whole Football League. And the problem for me is, and I agree with the Respect the Ref campaign at, Sunday League level, where you get kids reffing and the parents are shouting at them on the pitch and stuff like that. But nobody can talk about referees. You get fined in the press conferences afterwards if you're a manager. You get booked from the touchline for challenging decisions. You get booked as players for challenging decisions. When are they going to be held accountable for the fucking disgrace that they constantly serve up week after week? The officiating in the Football League, it needs looking at. And they don't earn the respect because their decisions and the quality of them is not up to the level. So they need to have a look at the Football League, because I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump to the referee's defence slightly here in terms of I posted quite an evocative tweet after the game saying that we were robbed and that it was a handball. And that was before I'd had the privilege of any replays. I was just going off what Fergie said and my pure just guttedness in the car with Ashley on the way back, where we were just both crying in our KFC. But in terms of the reffing standards, listen, it's not an easy job officiating at an EFL level. It's not an easy job officiating at any level, but especially in the EFL. In terms of the time added on, I can understand why we got to the point we did. I think we had a substitute in 92nd minute of added time, which added some time on. 100%. Bolton were proper pushing. I think, we had that poor clearance, which meant he couldn't blow the full-time whistle at that moment. And then, if he'd blown it for the corner, there was enough time potentially that could be added on to justify the corner being taken. What I will say, though, is that it looked like he was absolutely desperate to give that. And that was because of how poor he was throughout the game. I'm not going to say that he was biased against us. I think he was actually not biased towards us, but he gave some strange decisions. We have to say that we got maybe a bit lucky off a penalty call earlier in the game where it looked like maybe Sam Curtis, I think it was, hauled someone down. It looked like the ref was, he was really getting on the nerves of the home fans, and you can see why. So he was absolutely itching to give us that penalty in the last, to give them that penalty in the last minutes of the game. So I don't have complaints about the stoppage time. I don't necessarily think we should be going in on an we hate refs debacle here. But what I will say is that it looked like he was desperate to give it. But I think you've maybe been a bit harsh there, John, on the referee in total.
Sorry.
You just said that he missed a blatant penalty, and it was a penalty. He should have given Bolton a penalty. And I'm not suggesting this is a Peterborough United agenda by any stretch of the imagination. But the stoppage time issue is one that comes up a lot with Posh. I mean, you look at Sheffield Wednesday in the playoffs, that was well beyond time as well. And it does feel like we're being a little bit unfairly treated with that. And that's not to say that there's an agenda against Peterborough United. My issue is that the standard of officiating is nowhere near good enough for the level of what they're playing at. There's too much on the line and too much at stake for the level across League One. We've had some awful officials this season. Frankly, they've been largely terrible. Most weeks we come off saying, well, the ref wasn't very good. And it's just a constant issue with Football League matches across the pyramid. And the Football League seem to turn a complete blind eye to it. And actually, they're going about it in completely the wrong way. They're completely minimizing the voice of any dissenting voices. You get booked for anything nowadays in terms of dissent against the referees. And I just think the refs are the only people on the pitch that aren't held accountable. You see the criticism that players get for bad performances. You see the criticism that managers get for bad performances. Yet refs are constantly not held accountable. And actually, what happens in the Prem? What happens if you're a bad ref in the Prem? Go down and manage a Football League match. Go ref a Football League match. So we're subjected to them. It's just the wrong system. They have to get the level of refereeing up. And I don't know how they do that because they're not necessarily professional. And I get that it's not their full-time jobs. But I just think the standard of officiating, and this isn't just a Football League issue, it's a Premier League issue as well, it's just so poor. And I just think the issue of the inconsistency over how referees deal with stoppage time, which is such a basic thing to do, is one of the things that is a problem.
I mean, listen, without moving into a sort of a general talk about referees, what I will say is that there's young people listening to this podcast right now. And do you reckon any of them are listening to this conversation or listening to Darren Ferguson's post-match or listening to 4,000 home fans chanting wanker, wanker and thinking, oh, you know what? I really want to be a referee. Maybe there's a reason why the standard of refereeing is so low. And that's because nobody wants to do it. It's an absolutely thankless task. You make probably 99 out of 100 decisions correct, small decisions in the game that never get brought up. But then as soon as you make one mistake, you're vilified. And so I think we do need to sometimes cut referees some slack. I mean, I don't want to go back and examine the details of Hillsborough, but that game, the Sheffield Wednesday away game, the referee was probably quite well within his rights to play as long as he did. And I think he was again on Saturday. And I know added time is an issue, but it is a minimum. You have, they have the right to play longer if they feel the team's time wasting. They have a right to play longer if there's substitutions. And so we sometimes have to suck it up and go, actually, did the referee make the mistake there, or was it Ryan de Havilland who lost his man at the back post and then hauled him down as a result that we should be attacking here, and not the officials who are being paid very little on top of a full-time job to watch that game and be abused as a result?
Okay, very quickly, I don't think the ref was actually that bad, right? Don't want to talk about the ref for too long. I don't think he was that bad. Every ref has been shit for most games. It is what it is. We have to accept it. I think we've spoke about the ref enough. You know, we could have won the game. They could have won the game without it. It is what it is. Let's move on.
Yeah, I'm going to level with everyone. I've kept quiet for sort of the last 15 minutes because I'm still in an absolutely foul mood after yesterday, for literally one reason and one reason only. And that is that I just genuinely am gutted for Bila Kapic. He's been berated by Posh fans and rightly so, for some absolutely terrible performances, both this season when we think about Oxford and last season when we go back to Wickham. But yesterday really felt like it was the one that stood out and sort of like a change in his fortunes. He was the reason that we were on to keep a clean sheet, and he was just completely let down by the rest of the team on the pitch. There were disappointing performances all over, but what can I say? I do sort of agree with John. In terms of the referees, is that there's all this grappling going on when we're attacking on Manny Fernandez. Why is that not seen? Is it because Manny doesn't throw himself to the floor? Like, you shouldn't have to throw yourself to the ground to get a penalty. You're either holding or you're not. So you're either hindering somebody or you're not. But when you go back to Bila Kapic, you just sort of have to just feel bad for the guy. He's kept a clean sheet for us in the BSM this season. And yesterday absolutely should have been the first clean sheet in the league for Posh and for himself as well.
Yeah, I think I shared that. I felt horrible just seeing him on the floor after that penalty, just out on his feet. And it was sort of like, he sort of looked to the sky like, what more can I do? And you heard his interview after the game. You know, we listened to it on the way home. It sounded like he felt like just crying. I mean, what actually more can he do to gain a bit of luck in a Posh shirt? He's had some bad displays, yes, but he has been unbelievable yesterday. Probably, you know, one of the best goalkeeper performances, actually, if not the best goalkeeper performance I've ever seen from a Posh keeper in my time supporting the club. He was almost invincible. And we've already touched on the whole players not tracking in thing. But when I saw the stills of Lolos, the goal scorer, who started about halfway in our half, beating those defenders to the ball, I just felt horrible. I think Bila Kapic is owed a massive apology by a few players, by Ryan de Havilland. And I'm just gutted that he didn't get his moment in front of the travelling supporters after saving that penalty and that rebound, to celebrate, because his team didn't feel like they wanted to put in the hard yards for him. It was really, really disappointing to see. And I was really, really sad for Bilo, actually, more than anybody, more than the team, more than the 3 points yesterday.
We're all very, very quick to criticise players when they have off games, when they do this, when they do that. Just something Charlie said there is, I can't remember, or I don't even know if there was ever a better goalkeeper performance in one game than what I saw from Bilo. It just seemed that nothing was going to go past him. He was fucking outstanding. Generally, one of the best performances I've seen from a goalkeeper. His passing was very good overall. He did have a few dodgy bits here and there, if I'm honest, but you know, I think you'll see from my player ratings that will come out tomorrow or whenever it is, absolutely superb. And he's had some proper slatings over the last 6 months, 8 months, whatever it's 12 months. He deserves every bit of fucking credit that is coming his way for that performance. And with you, Ash, you know, I can handle defeat and whatever, but the fact that I believe his teammates let him down to keep a clean sheet. You know, what more could he do? Save a penalty, save 2 rebounds. Fucking hell, you know, someone should have been in there helping him. Still would have may have gone in the net, but at least put the effort in. He was outstanding. And kudos to Bilo.
I guess talking about the rest of the defence, it was quite interesting that the general consensus was that the Centre-backs were really good. The full-backs yesterday were a little bit choppier. Would you say, Ash?
Yeah, I agree. It definitely seems like Sparks really struggles in the first half of games and then sort of comes into it in the second half. I don't know whether that's a confidence thing on his behalf and that he sort of needs to get himself into a game and then sort of perform. But it was not a disappointing second half for Jack Sparks. I just thought that he ran around a little bit in the first half, and then when you flip to the other side, it's really disappointing in Dornelli is that he was the same as we were at Wickham, like misplaced passes in the wrong place. Like there were times where we had Archie Collins and Ryan de Havilland defending it right back because he was in the box. Like, I don't understand whether that's the strategy and the tactics that we're playing that our right back ends in the box, or whether he's just daydreaming because he wants to score another goal. Like Fergie mentioned in his interview, we've got a 18, 19-year-old cramping up after 60 minutes of football. And I don't think that yesterday was particularly energy exerting, but something must be going wrong somewhere down the line when we look at all of these injuries that we've got. And now we have players going down after 60 minutes, less than 2 months into the season.
What I would say about Jack Sparks is, because I agree, I don't think he had a good game at all. But something I have noticed the last couple of weeks, especially after the Wickham game, when Archie Collins gets the ball, first thing he does is look up and he's looking for someone to make enough space for him to ping a pass to, because he's got that technical ability. I think the same goes for Jack Sparks. He gets the ball, he looks up, and he hasn't got the options on. But the problem is when you play it to someone on the byline, is he only has 180 degrees around him. Archie Collins has got the ability to turn around, go backwards if he has to, go sideways, go to the other side. But Jack Sparks is he's stuck there. He's being pressed. He doesn't know where to go. And then he'll just lump the ball up the pitch and it will often go out for a throw and we'll all groan and we'll all slate him. And he rightly did have a bad game yesterday because he was kicking the ball out of play and his passes weren't on target. But I do think it's an issue with the players not making the movement and not making the runs that perhaps Mason Clark was doing for Burrows last season. Totally agree on Dornelli. There was a couple of defensive issues he had. There was one where he was relatively unchallenged and the ball's coming down in the air and he sort of hesitated with a header, but then didn't want to bring it down with his foot and it hit him in the shoulder, I think, didn't it? And just went straight to their attacker. And I think Bilo might have bailed him out. They definitely missed a chance. But yeah, the centre-backs I thought were good. Wallin, I think, got a little bit lucky with that one that he played their striker through. Bilo definitely bailed him out with that one. But like I said earlier, it was a bit of a backs-to-the-wall performance with especially Manny. I thought he played well again, blocking shots, making clearances. But yeah, I think we'd need to drop Dornelli now. I actually thought Sam Curtis had a really good game when he came on, both attacking and defensive. He just let himself down, not running into the box for the penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, Lodz, on all of that. What I will talk on is Oscar Wallin. You know, Ashley mentioned the injuries of players, and Oscar Wallin looks like one that we've really had to sort of push to his physical limits as much as possible. I think he needs a break. I wouldn't play him in either of the cup games next week at all. I would keep him away from them. We've got Cambridge at home on Saturday, a week on Saturday, and we need him for that game. So I'd give him a week off this week, just let him go to Sweden, celebrate the title with Degerfors or whatever he needs to do, and then bring him back, train him for a week going into Cambridge, and then let him play because he looks absolutely out on his feet. He's one that I don't think at any point this season, no matter whether you think he's been technically good or not, he's probably the player the most that we can't knock for not trying, because he is, you know, even late in the game, he was making busting runs to make recoveries. He was, you know, giving it his all, throwing his body on the line. He deflects the ball in weird ways sometimes. I think a lot of the deflected goals this season have come from him, but he's been a really good defender, really good signing for us. And again, him and Manny yesterday were fantastic at the back. And other than that one sort of lapse in concentration, I thought he was really, really good. So yeah, Oscar Wallin is the point I'm making. He needs a break because he's knackered, but he's looking like a really decent signing at centre back, and he's a really solid player, and he's going from strength to strength in this division.
So I've heard a lot of shouts about how we defended, and I actually tweeted after the game saying that I feel like we defended better, but I wonder if Bela Kapic has really put a shine on that, because ultimately we let 27 shots on our goal, and I actually think if Jed Steers in that goal yesterday, we probably lose that game 3 or 4-0 again. There was certainly 2 or 3 saves that Bela Kapic made that were the sort of shots which Jed Steer has been letting in most of this season. So we say that they defended better, but I'm not sure if that's the goalkeeper making things look better than they were. And Oscar Valen's an interesting one, because people have pointed to his good game, but actually he tried to head the ball back to Bela Kapic and left it short right at the end of the game, and Bela Kapic bailed him out. He let Adebayo Ajo completely free 6 yards out from his goal, and Adebayo Ajo headed it over the bar. And there was another incident that I'm trying to recall now, where Dion Charles had just come off the bench and he cut inside him, and Valen was the one trying to jockey him, didn't get anywhere near him, and Bela Kapic has gone really down low and done really well going back across his own goal to save the shot. So I've got some, I mean, for me, Valen has been a good signing. I think you can see there's potential there, but I also think there's some real issues with him, and he's not aggressive enough defensively a lot of the time. I really feel like he loses a lot of his headers. On the floor, he's not been too bad, and I do have some sympathy with him because he's been played both sides of the defense, and often on the left-hand side, which is probably not his strongest suit. But actually, we're a defense that's conceded a lot of goals, and to say that he's been a great signing, I don't know if I can say that. And actually, in general, there's still a lot going wrong with that defense yesterday. Frankly, we let 27 shots on our goal. It's not really great, is it? And as much as we're saying, and I think you could see there was more heart in the defense, and I think that's what a lot of people have pointed to, in the sense that Archie Collins was busting a gut to get back, etc. Manny Fernandez got a few blocks in on the edge of the area, and we did look a little bit more resilient that way. But on the same token, on another day, if Bela Kapic doesn't have a worldy game and he was outstanding, we lose 3 or 4 again, and we're all saying the defense was really poor.
Yeah, I totally agree, John. But at the same time, sometimes you need that luck, don't you? We definitely haven't had that luck. Like people have mentioned, the blocking that we had yesterday was probably the best of the season. It felt like everything was a proper block. It went out for a throw-in. It went out towards the halfway line and that sort of stuff. The only thing that I sort of wanted to wrap back to is what Lodz mentioned about taking Dornelli out. I don't see a solution. I don't see what the answer is other than bringing Ajiboy back in. Sam Curtis is dreadful. I don't think that Dornelli is dreadful, but I think he's got lots of learning to do. And whatever the issues are that he is having with his fitness that are causing him to cramp up, he now has a week off, and he needs to make a massive, massive turnaround on that. Otherwise, we're essentially doing what we did last season and waiting for somebody like Katongo to be back fit again. I think that will be the replacement, is that Katongo comes back in at right back. But again, we're waiting until December for that. We've still got another 6 weeks until Katongo's back fit again.
Yeah, just on Sam Curtis, I said at the start of the season it was a bit of a strange signing. We said we wanted to develop James Dornelli, so we signed this player that's the same age as him on loan. We don't like developing loan players. We've said that before. Yet for some reason, Sam Curtis is good enough to play ahead of Dornelli, and he's going to be the number one choice right back, which was quickly poo-pooed as he's been displaced already. Whether we send him back and get a proper right back in January, I don't know. But I think you're right, actually. I think Katongo probably is the answer at right back, especially given that Manny Fernandez has been a lot better than what we were expecting him to be. We've got George Nevitt to give minutes to yet, and obviously Oscar Wallen. So you've got 3 decent enough centre-backs there with Katongo kicking around. And that said, Adebisi can play there as well. So if Jack Sparks starts putting in some better performances, you can't not suggest playing Adebisi at right back and Jack Sparks at left back as well.
Moving on from the defence, it was a weird attacking performance because there was actually, I thought, quite a lot of pretty strong progression through the phases, good counter-attacking work, good distribution from Bilo. But we walk away from that game with 2 shots on target that I honestly think would have been 5 or 6 shots on target if that final ball had been there. Charlie, like, I don't know, did you find it frustrating seeing so many balls go across the box and just no one be there?
Yeah, very frustrating. I thought the attacking four were quite poor by all accounts. I think Malik was probably the best of the four. I think that's probably non-controversial to say. I think he beat his man quite a few times, got some really good deliveries across the face of goal. Ricky J. Jones was pretty much non-existent, I'm going to be honest. He had a couple of good runs, but in terms of actually being a poacher in the penalty box, he was nowhere to be seen, and you'd expect any clinical League One striker to latch on to at least one of those balls across the area. Joel Randall went missing, surprise, surprise, and Kwame Poku on the right wing wasn't his usual effective self. I don't think he really cut in and had a shot on target once in the game. He couldn't get his foothold on the game. He was having to drop quite deep because of Dornelli, as we've already mentioned. So maybe that's why he wasn't able to be that big attacking outlet. But yeah, I was disappointed with the front four. And I think there's a case to be made for, it's very easy to blame the defence for a game that we lose when the attack score goals. But actually, that was a game that built on a very strong defensive platform that was there for the taking in terms of what the defence had provided the attack, which was an opportunity to counter quite a few times, and we didn't make it work. Bradley, when he came on, held up the ball okay a couple of times, but looked a little bit weak. Yeah, in terms of the attacking play, it definitely wasn't great. We've been much better this season. We'll be much better this season, and it's just a shame that we couldn't have even like 50% of what we had on Tuesday night, because we probably would have scored if that had been the case.
No, I totally agree. And we said how fantastic Joel Randall was on Tuesday night against Blackpool for the first sort of game in 13. And then he's gone absolutely missing again and started making some terrible decisions. When we think back, there was a chance when Posh were attacking the away fans. I think it was Poku, and then it was Ricky. Ricky crossed it. Malik cut it back. It was slightly misplaced, and then Joel Randall decides to shoot whilst he's facing the dugout, put it over the bar. Like, what a total waste. Like, we moan at him that he doesn't shoot, and then he goes and shoots in the stupidest scenario where it was never an option. He should have recycled it and put it back. That's one chance that we sort of missed up on. And like Charlie says, I think that Malik Mothersill showed how fantastic of a footballer that he will be when he develops himself further. I think that he's probably just as frustrated that he's not the striker down the middle because he's twice in 2 games now put the ball across the box and there's been nobody there. Now he's doing what he would expect, and that's where he would be if he was the striker in the middle of the box. And it's ultimately a tap-in. When you look at the best strikers, where are they? They're in the 6-yard box. They're not waiting for cutbacks. So yeah, just not disappointing, because don't get me wrong, Bolton defended very well. They were very physical. We saw Ricardo Santos somehow managing to keep up with Ricky J. Jones, and sort of whether that was by hook or by crook. But again, it was another attacking performance where we only had 3 players on the pitch.
I'm just like, I get told that I have an agenda towards Joel Randall. I'm just looking at the scores you guys gave him. You gave him you gave Joel a 6, which I appreciate is your joint lowest score of the day. And Charlie, you gave him a 6.5, which is not the lowest score of the day for you. I'm not pretending Joel lit the game up yesterday, but he was involved in the progression as he was meant to be. I don't actually misplaced a pass, and yeah, fine. He shouldn't have shot from where he shot on that one occasion, just like Ricky screwed a shot wide. Are we going to say Ricky went missing because of that? Like, let's just get some perspective here. Randall was not the reason we didn't score yesterday. It was because no one was in the right positions in the box, and that was a collective thing.
First of all, I did actually say Ricky went missing in the penalty area, so I don't know whether you were here for that, Harry, or not, but I did say that. And the second thing is that, listen, Joel Randall, he had some nice little flicks and tricks, and it was all very pretty at points when he was in absolutely acres of space in front of a very flat Bolton back 3. But as soon as there was a little bit of pressure on him, I still don't think I've seen him actually tackle someone so far this season. I may be wrong, but he definitely didn't do it.
Tackle the Bolton player in their third. Tackle the Bolton player in their third yesterday.
I do not remember it, and it must have been when I was crying about Bilo or something, because I do not remember him doing anything that had any bearing on the game in the final third, other than sending a shot ballooning up to the sky. There was a time where he tried to backheel it to Poku, and that got cut out quite quickly when we were going forward with some pace. I don't think he did anything impressive in the game. I don't think he was a negative influence on the team. I definitely haven't said that. But what I will say is I think he was...
No, not a negative influence on the team is, not good, not negative, not positive. I can live with, but saying he went completely missing was ridiculous.
No, but he did. I mean, he wasn't a negative influence on the team in terms of he didn't make our performance worse, but he certainly didn't make it better. And being our highest paid player and someone on a 3-year contract, I would expect better from that. I would be expecting him to have a positive influence on a game like that rather than a negative one. So I'm not going to come in here and absolutely slate Joe Randall, but when we're talking about the reasons why we didn't get anything out of that game, our inability to score on that big pitch is down to those front four players. Malik was good. Poku wasn't great, but wasn't terrible. Ricky looked a bit cropped, but had a couple of good runs. So there's an odd one out here, and that's Joe Randall, who I don't think had any positive influence on the game.
Okay, with Joe Randall, I actually thought he was average. I don't think he was shit. I don't think he was great like he was on Tuesday. He was average. That is it. Nothing spectacular. But what I will say is, from the front line, whilst we only created 2 chances or had 2 shots on target, I actually saw some good moments. Like Malik is starting to get the understanding of beating a player and putting a cross in. Even Ricky had I thought a really good cross. Me and Ash was talking about in the game yesterday, where potentially, Ricky could have gone a little bit further to put the cross in. But it was a superb ball. Somebody should have been on the back post ready to put that in, i.e. Malik, I think, was the player at the time. But I'm seeing more from the front four, as in they're starting to work together. They're starting to understand each other. So I think we've got to give them a little bit of credit, but there's no standout performances from the front of the pitch like there was with Randall on Tuesday, and like there was with Bilo on Saturday. So, overall, we've got to take it what it is. But you've got to look at the positives at the moment. It is a tough old season. Loads of youngsters. And on the point of youngsters, we've got, I know we spoke about Dornelli getting cramp at 60 minutes or whatever. Now, has he got cramp, or is it like wants to be injured because he's having a howler? Who knows? But also, all these, I said before, if the players are young, it's irrelevant. I don't give a shit. If they're old enough, if they're good enough, they're old enough. We're paying our money to see these players, and we should have the right to criticise and praise players when we can. And I expect to see a certain level from these players on a regular basis, irrelevant if they're growing or, coming into the team. There should be a level. But overall, let's move on. Should we move on from Bolton?
Yeah, sounds good. Next Saturday, Peterborough United are away at Newport County in the first round of the FA Cup. I've not checked the old stat book, I guess, what our record is like against Newport. And I kind of open it up to the floor, really. What do you guys want to see in terms of the lineup for this game? I don't know, John, I might come to you first.
Well, I agree with Charlie, what Charlie said earlier. I would give Oscar Vallin the week off for sure. I think George Nevitt needs to play, almost certainly, just to see what he's like against the lower quality of opposition. I think, again, everything with Nevitt is he looks brilliant on the ball, but I think he needs to learn a lot defensively. So exposure to first team football in these kind of games will definitely do him good. I would probably play Dornelli again, because I think if there is any fitness issues, then the more game time we can give him, the better. But largely, I would play a pretty strong team. I think we've obviously had quite an up and down season so far, and I think it's really important to start building some momentum. I don't want us to go to Newport and lose and then have that Cambridge game basically hanging over our shoulders the week after. So I would like us to go there, get the win, and just get some momentum, because it feels like we're coming into like a crucial part of the season now. The fixtures are a little bit more friendly. We've got some very winnable home games coming up in the next few weeks. And I think this can sort of it's not a massive game. It's the FA Cup round 1. You know, when you support a team like Posh, the best you can really hope for is a big away draw in the 3rd or 4th round. We're never going to progress too far in the competition, but I do think there is an importance on getting a winning mentality into the squad. And certainly defensively, I'd like us to get a clean sheet here and just start to breed some confidence into the squad. We've won 5-1. Yesterday feels like a bit of a momentum halter. So if we can get back on that winning trail ahead of, like I say, an easier stretch of fixtures, I think that would be good. And I think it's important that we don't rotate too much. We've got a week off. There's no real need to rotate. I think we go strong, and I think we go all out for the win, to be honest.
Yeah, I have to agree with John. It would be nice to absolutely stuff Newport like we did to Blackpool. The front four were terrible against Bolton. I think that was the reason why we lost the game. Not scoring a goal with the attacking talent that we've got on the pitch is embarrassing. So I think they should try and see how many goals they can score against Newport to prove that they can do it regularly, and it wasn't just a one-off against Blackpool, because I think that game against Blackpool was the first time we really saw all 4 of them dominate at the same time this season.
Yeah, I'm a little bit unsure on this one. I don't really feel like we need to try and progress in the FA Cup when we've got as many injuries as we have. I think that maybe we need to start looking after some players. It would be nice maybe to see somebody like Will Blackmore come into the team and get an appearance. Like we've said before, we've got this goalkeeper. He's a similar build. He's a similar stature. He's relatively good at passing out from the back. So he is essentially a younger version of Jed Steer. I think that we need to give Blackmore some game time and get him into that first team environment so that he can ultimately become our second goalkeeper when Jed Steer moves on. As for the outfield players, I'm really not sure. I don't think that we'll see Poku. I don't think that we'll see Ricky. I think that it will be a game where Otto and Hayes both start and come in. It's a shame that a few of the injured players aren't going to be back in time to make an appearance for that one. Thinking of like Con Clark and things like that. So we'll probably see like a little bit of a mixed batch. But I definitely think that the eyes in the game need to be on protecting the players, where if they have a little knock, a little niggle, we get them off as quickly as we can, because we just do not need any more injuries being carried into a busy festive period.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Ash, that protecting the players has to be our priority at the minute. I mean, from a Newport perspective, we're going to a team that have won 1 in their last 5, so they're not exactly setting the world alight in League 2. They're a very hoofball team. I don't know if any of you know who Carl Hudlin is, but he's the 6'9" striker that was at Solihull Moors and went viral when he was there, and is on loan from Huddersfield there, I think. He's their starting striker. So you can imagine what the play style is going to be like, hoofing it to him, which will be a good test, I think, for Manny Fernandez if he comes against him, coming against someone who, actually is physically as big as him. But yeah, Newport are a team that are going to try and hoof the ball long, get force mistakes out of our relatively young defenders. They'll pump the ball into the channels. Big centre halves. It's the kind of game that you think Ricky would absolutely feast on if Fergie does choose to play him, or actually any of our quick attackers, because there's some serious dead legs at the back there for Newport that we could exploit if we choose to go strong. It's a game, let's not sugarcoat it. It's a game that we absolutely should be winning. No matter what team we put out, whether it's our first choice or whether it's, a bit of a mix with a couple of sort of the second string players. It's a game we should be winning. No disrespect to Newport. I'm sure they're a lovely team and they've got lovely fans. But no, I'm not going to go out there and say that we should be doing anything other than getting through to the next round of the Cup.
For me, I would just treat it as like another game. Go out, put the strongest team out that you can. And if we do get ahead, then we can make a couple of changes. But I don't think we're really fighting for promotion at the moment. I think this season is going to be it's looking to be maintain where we are in the league and get from there. So let's make the most of it. Let's see if we can go further. There's nothing better than having a good cup run, as we've all experienced. If we get injuries, we get injuries. We're going to get fucking injuries, whether we play in the league or not. So I think we should go for the strongest team. I am confident we're going to win. But I'm not going to sort of like, as Charlie said, I'm not going to get too carried away because they do play a certain way by the sounds of it. And if they've got a 6'9" striker, well, we know which has going to be done, isn't it? So we just got to go out, do our best. And yeah, it's a long way for us to go. But let's try and win the game with the strongest team, rest if we need to. So that's my view on it.
All right. I mean, while I've been talking, I realised I was remiss in not looking up our record against Newport. We played them once in the 21st century, which was a 3-0 win at their place in 2013 in the Johnson's Paint Trophy, which must have been part of the year we won the Johnson's Paint Trophy, I think. And then before then, it was the 80s when we were in Division 4 with them. We've got our record against them is 1-12, drawn 4 and lost 3. Let's hope we don't add to that. And on that, I want to hear some predictions from everybody. And I'll come to you, Ash, first.
5-0 Posh. I think that like we say, we've got to be too strong for a little small village just outside of Cardiff, haven't we, realistically?
Yeah, well, I don't know where to go from there, but I actually don't think it's going to be that much of an easy game. I Posh under the long ball. Never is one that particularly I find a non-stressful experience, shall we say. It's a style of football that we never particularly do well against. We should have too much quality for them. So I think we'll win, but I think it'll be narrow. I think it'll be a rotten game of football to watch. So I'll go with a 2-1 victory, but I don't think it's going to be a 5-0 like Ash.
Okay, I know you're doing predictions, but I just want to go back because Harry mentioned we didn't play him until the 80s. Sorry, we used to play him in the 80s. Then they went tits up. They went out of the league for a while. I actually remember, obviously, going to lots and lots of games, but Newport at home, we actually won 3-0 one year. I think it was about 85, 86. And I missed that game. And the reason I remember it so well, my mum grounded me, so she wouldn't let me go to football. I was fucking heartbroken, seriously gutted. And Mick Gooding scored a hat-trick. It was one of the first hat-tricks that Peterborough scored for a long time. And he scored, and I missed it. I was fucking pissed off. So based on that, I'm going to go 3-0.
Del, it was the 21st of October, 1987, the game you're talking about. There you go.
Was that the one?
No, you were right. Just 87. Yeah, there you go.
Right, so I was 15. I was grounded.
I think Posh will win 8-2.
Sorry, was that the actual prediction? Okay. I think it's going to be a relatively comfortable one for Posh. I don't think we'll be able to go 90 minutes of football without conceding. We've shown it is physically impossible to go, or at least 100 minutes of football without conceding. I don't back us on the road against a team with a 6'9" striker not to just let one go in the back of our net, especially if we've got Jed Steer or Will Blackmore in goal, as Ash has mentioned. So I'll go 3-1 Posh. I think we'll play a relatively strong side. Wouldn't surprise me if there is some rotation, but that's only on the players that we see as injury risks. I think Fergie will want most of his squad to play. Then they can have a week off until Cambridge. I think it will be a convincing win for Posh, 3-1 through to the second round.
And I always feel like I'm going against the grain because I often predict different to everyone else. But I also do remember that we often make the FA Cup far harder for ourselves than we need to. Littered, especially in the Fergie era games, with draws that result in replays. So I am going to go with 1-1. And
can I just jump in there, Harry?
Yes.
Am I right in thinking that replays have been fucking kicked out of the FA Cup, so it can't be a draw?
Correct.
In the first round, I thought it was from the third round. There's no more replays in the first round either. The first round replays are gone.
Yeah. As soon as it becomes proper FA Cup, they've all been knocked out.
Well, I sound incredibly poorly informed then, and I'm derailing the quality of this podcast pretty rapidly. It's going to be 1-1 at 90 minutes, which is what I meant to say, and then we will go out on penalties. Right, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you everyone for listening. It's been a pleasure. We will see you next week after the Newport game. Up the posh.
Up the Poshcast.
Cast.
Up the posh.
Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Up The Poshcast. Let us know your feedback. Give us any ideas for topics you would like to discuss or any questions you'd like us to answer. Up The Poshcast.
Push my fingers into my eyes.